Hi people, Muridure here again. A while ago, or a good while ago, I released an article as well as a corresponding video on prayer. So praying in the Christian tradition. I mean, of course, as a Christian myself, the whole Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The way that Christians conservatively and traditionally pray. And in it, I discuss whether prayer has merit and how to pray correctly and so on and so forth. And in this video, I'm going to elaborate further on the Christian Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, but primarily the New Testament. The Old Testament, I remember reading both of them, by the way, a good while ago. The Old Testament I read as a child multiple times. The New Testament as an adult, or at least close to being an adult, so an adolescent, in my 20s or similar. But bottom line is that the only thing that I really have to say about the Old Testament, as according to my own knowledge, experience, and insight, is that the Old Testament consists primarily of stories. Again, this is my opinion as far as I remember it. That's why I said according to my own knowledge and experience and insight. So there's a chance that I might be off on a couple of details, but as far as I remember it, the Old Testament consisted of a bunch of stories that had a moral, stories where there was a moral to the story at the end. For example, the one where Michael burns down Sodom and Gomorrah, and I forgot the lady's name. I forgot her name was Lot. She looked back and she turned into stone or salt, a pillar of salt or something like that. I still remember all of those things. Bottom line is that's the Old Testament, aside from other life lessons also mentioned in it. The New Testament, however, forgoes the Old Testament and corrects more than a few items that are, more than a few lessons that are mentioned in the Old Testament. So in this video, I'll simply be elaborating further on, I'm going to link this video to the video on my prayer video and the article too, and I'm going to simply elaborate because they align well with each other. I'm going to elaborate on further on the merit of the Bible, Christian Bible. This is interesting from an occult perspective as well as from a neutral perspective, because this is interesting to a lot of people, of course. And especially mundane people have difficulty grasping the Bible, and therefore it causes skepticism, and people have varying opinions ranging from the fact that the Bible is fake, the Bible isn't real, and that the Bible was written by men, therefore it can't be the word of God, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into all of that specifically, but things that are noteworthy. Contradictions, yeah. A lot of people are of the opinion, let's start off with contradictions. A lot of people are of the opinion that contradictions in the Bible is one of the reasons the Bible is false, or the information or its content is false, is because the Bible has a lot of contradictions. It's said to do A in one page or one section, and then you're supposed to do the exact opposite in the following section, and so on and so forth. And that causes confusion even amongst some so-called die-hard Christians. And what I have to say on it is, the reason I'm sitting this way, by the way, is because I need to look at my laptop screen, because I wrote all of it down so that I don't forget. Contradictions aren't contradictory. I got that from the beginning. I got that right from the start, okay? People have difficulty grasping that, One contradiction, for example, said an eye for an eye and so on. Thou hast heard that it has been said, there's been an eye for an eye, a life for a life. So basically, if someone wrongs you and someone kills someone, a loved one, someone kills your wife, if you're a guy, then, or if you're a woman, your husband, then you're supposed to retaliate with equal measure. And this doesn't contradict, this isn't and then people claim that the Bible contradicts itself, because one section says that you're supposed to do that, an eye for an eye, you're supposed to take an eye for an eye, and then another section says that you're not supposed to do that, and so on and so forth. For example, in the New Testament, there is a paragraph in which it's clearly mentioned that you're supposed to turn the other cheek if someone slaps you on the one cheek. and it basically forgoes the whole eye for an eye, life for a life measure or rule. First off, that's not a contradiction. That is simply an update, if you will. That's why it's been said that thou hast heard, that it has been said, an eye for an eye, a life for a life. But I tell you, blah blah blah. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn on the other, and do not repay one bad deed with another, but instead defeat good by doing evil, as I remember it. And bottom line is, that's not a contradiction, but there are other examples, and I'm simply going to use this one example. It's not a contradiction in any case, and the other things don't contradict each other either. You simply need to look at things from a broad perspective, okay? That's why it's also said, for example, in Matthew 5, specifically paragraph 38, 39, I have it all written down here, and Lucas 17, paragraph 3 to 4, if your neighbor tries to sin against you, punish him. And if he shows genuine remorse or regret and is sorry, forgive him. That's what it comes down to. And even if he were to sin against you 7 times, punish him every time. And then forgive him if he is remorseful every time. So, long story short, what this thing means, metaphorically speaking, is that you're not supposed to take, bluntly put, shit from anyone. One of the biggest problems that people have is that the Bible, Jesus teaches people, the teachings of Jesus are written down in metaphors, or as they like to call it, parables. Jesus doesn't literally tell people what to do. He simply uses metaphors and figures of speech, and it's basically up to you to decode what he's saying. That's why I also remember a paragraph being present, I don't know which one exactly, where he says, to those that have ears hear it, and those that can think or have the sense of mind to understand, then understand it. This is basically, the modern equivalent of this is to whom the shoe fits. Well, we're all familiar with the saying and what it means, to whom the shoe fits. Okay, this knowledge is for people that are capable of grasping it or willing to work to the point where they're grasping and understanding it. And the knowledge isn't cheap. It's not going to be given to you on a or handed to you on a silver platter. That's what Jesus meant. Which is obvious. They don't expect divine knowledge to come falling out of the sky. You need to work for it if you want to seriously understand Jesus' teachings in this example. But in any case, yeah, contradictions, they're not contradictory. There are no contradictions in the Bible that don't make sense. Okay? Every contradiction fits well within the scope of the big picture, to put it that way, if you will. And I'm sure that most of you out there understand me. Bottom line is that there are no contradictions, okay? No literal contradictions where you're supposed to do this and then you're supposed to do the exact opposite. No. Okay? Every phrase aligns well with itself. You simply need to understand it. And when it comes to vengeance, for example, if someone tries to do wrong against you, punish him severely. And if he genuinely regrets his or her decision of wronging you, then you need to forgive them. That's the Christian thing to do. Okay, the whole matter of an eye for an eye, that was the Old Testament. That's an old teaching. The New Testament, that's why the New Testament forgoes the Old Testament. The New Testament is basically an upgraded, improvised, or improved version of the Old Testament. It's like the Old Testament 2.0, if you will. So that's what that means. Another thing that I was going to discuss is too that there are basic facts listed in it that prove the Bible's merit. In the Bible, it's mentioned, specifically John 2, paragraph 15, that the world revolves around sin and that sinning is a trend. Lust, greed, gluttony, sloth, etc. are all heavily promoted in society, regardless of the time period, which is true. I mean, this is obvious to anyone that is ascendant at a spiritual level and lucid enough to the point where he understands, where he understands all of this. Okay. I mean, this is obvious. Let's not kid ourselves. So those of you that aren't aware of it, well, now you are. Look around you. Look at the world around you. Everything in this world, pretty much everything is a sin. Everywhere around you, try to find something that's not sinful. You'll have a ridiculously hard time. Okay? The most things that are mundane to us as human beings. Sex falls under lust. Greed, material greed, thinking about making money, gluttony, going to eat out at KFC's or at McDonald's and so on and so forth. Everything, okay? Sloth, you saw a nice recliner in a home goods store that you want to buy so that you can sit on your Lazy Boy 3000. Everything. My point is, society is geared in such a way, and society is configured in such a way. I don't know for sure if that was always the case, but it is, as far as I can remember. Even if you go back in history, regardless of how far you go back, at the very least up to a certain point, this was always the case. Society revolves around sin. Not only is sinning allowed in the world, but people strive towards sinning in excess because society heavily promotes it. It's like the commandments, okay? When God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, rules by which you're supposed to live. God, for example, said, don't kill, and people kill relentlessly. People slaughter others en masse. God said, as far as I can remember, sex is only for procreative purposes. So sex isn't for, you shouldn't lust after someone or something. Well, without even trying, there are billions, I don't know, at the very least millions of porn sites out there, all revolving around lust. Sex in every imaginable way, position, bestiality, everything that you can imagine. Lust. Greed, okay, you're only supposed to, the commandment said, as far as I can remember, you're only supposed to take what you need materially, okay, use what you need, and that's it. So only for basic life necessities. That's the only thing you're supposed to use material wealth for. And instead of that, people care about making as much money as possible and flaunting their wealth and luxury in every imaginable way. And it just goes on. Gluttony. God says you should eat as little as possible, fast regularly as a means of cleansing yourself spiritually. And it just goes on. Instead of that, there are literally supermarkets on every street corner, convenience stores on every street corner that sell foods in different varieties, shapes, sizes, and forms. You've got 20,000 food chains, millions upon millions upon millions, and endless food chains out there. Anything from fast food to Chick-fil-A, anything you can imagine. Sloth in excess, okay? I mean gluttony in excess. Sloth refers to laziness, okay? It's the same thing. People are focused on being lazy just for good measure. Not laziness out of tiredness, out of general fatigue. People are literally being lazy because they want to be as lazy as possible. Hammocks are sold. You've got beds, water beds. You've got beds in all shapes and sizes. The whole concept of sloth is being promoted heavily. That it's enjoyable to sit back and to just relax and to be lazy and to do as little as possible. All of these are promoted in society. As you can see, it's the absolute excess. Not only is sinning allowed within society, either morally or legally, you don't know. But sinning is a trend. If you're not, I like a saying, the sin is in. If you don't sin, then you're not in, okay? You're not trendy, you're not part of it, you're not with it. I mean, you can say nowadays in society, it's almost nearly impossible to not sin. If you live in the modern world, at least, if you live in today's world, I don't know when it comes to the past, I'm not entirely sure about that. But generally speaking, if you live in society, you're committing a sin without even being aware of it. Just one thought, just looking, for example, me going out on the street and seeing a beautiful woman walk past, and the first thing that comes to mind is something promiscuous or sex related. That's already a sin. I did it as like a reflex. That's what I'm getting at, okay? These are all things that are listed in the Bible. I can specifically look it up. Let me see, John 2:15. If I Google John 2:15, you can see it right here. But I'm looking for a specific one. Hold on. For a second, viewer, I want to nail this specifically. Yeah. This is this is the Phillips, specifically John 2:15 Phillips edition, I think. Yeah. Never give your hearts to this world or to any of the things in it. A man cannot love the Father and love the world at the same time. For the whole world system, based as it is on men's primitive desires, their greedy ambitions, and the glamour of all that they think splendid, is not derived from the Father at all, but from the world itself. The world and all its passionate desires will one day disappear, but the man who is following God's will is part of the permanent and cannot die. And yeah, what is meant by this, plain and simply, is that all the glorious things in life, all the things that you cherish and treasure and that you gain enjoyment or that you derive enjoyment from, all of it will come and go, which I know for a fact because I've experienced it. Just simple, everyday examples. Okay, today you saw a nice car that you liked, today you saw a nice pair of shorts that you liked. Literally tomorrow it's going to be the same thing. Today you saw a nice pair of sunglasses you like, tomorrow it's going to be another pair of sunglasses, and after that another, and it just comes and goes, and you'll discard the very first pair of sunglasses you had because you're bored with them, they're not in anymore, or they're not trendy anymore, they're for old people now, and so on and so forth. All pleasurable things within society, within the world, have a kind of like a wet wipe, disposable level of duration, lifetime duration. Everything up to this date is disposable. Everything that you gain enjoyment from. Okay, today it's another beautiful cell phone you saw because it has the latest camera and this and this and that and so on and so forth. And literally tomorrow you'll go online and you'll see a different camera, you'll see a different cell phone with a beautiful new design, and you'll want it, and it just goes on. I've experienced this in my own personal life. There's so much stuff I have. Today it's another business handbag or briefcase that I saw. Tomorrow it will be something else, and it just goes on. I saw a nice cell phone, I think a week ago, and I'm itching almost to buy it, despite the fact that I know that I don't really need it. And I'm a bit bored with the current cell phones I have, even the one that I'm using to record this video. Tomorrow I'll see another nice laptop in the store which has the newest things. Yesterday I saw a hot woman on the street. Tomorrow I'll see another one, and it just never ends. Point is that all the sinful pleasures of this world are disposable, in the sense that they come and go. They're disposable. Just like it said, these are cold hard facts. Doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter whether you're even Christian or not. This applies from a neutral perspective, regardless of background, whether it be ethnically or geographically or religious, from a religious perspective. All of this applies to pretty much everyone. It applies to the entire world in general. And what I already mentioned is that Jesus spoke to people in metaphors. All the things that Jesus said are metaphors, okay? These aren't things that you can take literally, because Jesus often used basic metaphors, such as referring, for example, or using farmlands and whatnot to illustrate a bigger picture or a bigger point. It's, for example, like the saying, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. So that's that, and let me see. And last but not least, I have one more thing that I'd like to mention in regards to the apocalypse. We've all seen a bunch of so-called conspiracy theories that predicted the end of the world. There's always some nut job that comes along sooner or later, nut job bluntly put or loosely stated, that tries to predict or predicts or claims to predict that the world will end. We've all seen Mayan calendars, on National Geographic, that hey, the world is going to end because the Mayans had a sophisticated calendar system. Some old civilization had some system that claimed that hey, the world was going to end in the year 2000 or in the year 2020 on this and that, and it just goes on. Prophecies were made by some astrologer or some mystic figure dating back to pre-Christian times or Roman times, and it just goes on. No, end of story. It's all nonsense. God is the only one that knows when the world will end because He created the world, and God will literally call the world to an end when He sees fit. End of story. So that means that you can't predict the end. And it's also clearly written in Thessalonians 5. Hold on. Thessalonians 5, let me see. Hold on a second, let me just look it up really brief. Yeah. For you yourselves know, this specific part, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. Like a thief in the night. Thieves don't come expectedly. Thieves come when you're fast asleep and you have no idea what the hell's happening, and before you know it, your house has been broken into, you're tied up, and your family is being held hostage, and you guys are being killed off one by one. Without you even being properly awake and coherent to the point where you know what's happening. Point is that God is the one that will predict when the world comes to an end, and therefore it cannot be predicted. Doesn't matter what kind of elaborate mathematical system you want to use, not going to happen. No one in this world, with the exception of God, will be able to surefire guarantee you that the world is going to end tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And yeah, that's it. Those are the things that I wanted to elaborate on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was very knowledgeable for you. And if you haven't seen my article / video yet on the spraying to God work, you can click on the end screen that will appear momentarily. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.